Boldwood presents The Don, written by Gillian Godden, and read by Will Kirk. Chapter 1. A Fatal Encounter. Knock knock, morning stranger. Hearing Bruce's familiar voice, Adam Lambrianu cocked his head around the side of his computer screen and grinned. Letting out a slow whistle, he nodded with approval as he took in Bruce's appearance. I'd say you're the stranger, mate. You look well dapper in the new get-up. Very man of the world. I take it Julie and her male household have taken you shopping. Suited and booted, Brucey boy. Come on then, give us a twirl. Adam laughed. He hadn't seen Bruce for a couple of days. Bruce Sinclair was a university professor by occupation, but he was also Adam Lambrianu's best friend. Although Bruce was still a little naive to some of Adam's gangland ways in the underworld, they had a lot in common, and Bruce was one of the few friends that Adam had who was similar in age. It was Bruce who had given Adam the knowledge of cryptocurrency and how it was used today. Unwittingly, Adam's criminal mind had seen a way of making money through illegal crypto and laundering it legitimately. They had befriended a man called Jamie, who had worked for an independent stockbroking company and had been down on his luck. Bruce had told Adam about the woman he was seeing on a casual basis, Kim, who also worked at the stockbrokers and was a friend of Jamie's. During conversations and pillow talk, Kim had told Bruce about Jamie's hard luck story, how he didn't have any major clients, which made him a key candidate for Adam and his crypto scam. Befriending Jamie had been easy. Offering him a lot of cash to invest in crypto, they'd got him to work on their behalf, making sure every important document signed had his name on it. Adam, Bruce, and Julie Gold, a long-term family friend and the infamous gangland wife of Ralph Gold, had then watched and waited for their shares to go up before cashing in. After a few good deals, Jamie's reputation also grew, and once he was acknowledged as a good broker, his boss had given him even better clients, like Arab princes and wealthy celebrities. Adam, Bruce, and Julie had then ripped these clients off, creaming millions of pounds from their accounts. Julie Gold had blackmailed Jamie into helping them, but had also given him thousands of pounds for his part in their plan. Instantly, this poor, sofa-surfing broker, who was always sponging off his friends, was now running around buying champagne, Rolex watches, and an expensive apartment. Julie had known, if there was any suspicion, that Jamie would be the first name on everyone's lips. His sudden influx of fortune had caused many whispers, and as he hadn't won the lottery, there could only be one conclusion. He was embezzling his clients' funds for himself. After his reckless ways, Jamie had been arrested and was now facing a long prison sentence. And between Adam, Bruce, and Julie, they had made a fortune from their own living rooms. No bank robberies, no guns involved, just laptops and scams. Once Jamie had been arrested, they had all decided to keep a low profile should the police believe any sob stories Jamie might blurt out to reduce his sentence. And by all accounts, he was singing like a bird. Mentioning the names Lambrianu and Gold to the police was apparently whetting their appetite. But there was no evidence they had been involved in the scam, and they had definitely made sure there was no paper trail. All alibis were cast iron. They had made damn sure of that. Bruce had got his fair share of the proceeds too, and his fortunes had suddenly changed for the better. But, unlike the luckless Jamie, he had kept his fortune low-key, and he had proved to be a loyal and trusted friend. Both Adam and Julie liked him very much. Julie Gold, the aging but glamorous and very outspoken widow of the gangland boss Ralph Gold, had been close friends with Adam Lambrianu's mother, Francesca. Since her death years ago, Julie still mourned her friend and kept a close eye on Francesca's children. Eldest son Bobby, the twins Scarlett and Katie, and of course, Adam. Their father had been the infamous gangster, racketeer, club owner, and Italian-born Tony Lambrianu. Tony and Ralph Gold had been partners in crime, and part of the Brotherhood with Italian mafia godfather Don Carlos, who had treated Tony like his own son. In the days when they had been friends, Julie, Tony and Ralph had been a happy trio, carrying out diamond heists, gun running and importing drugs. But when Don Carlos recently passed away, he had left trouble for the Lambrianu family that Julie and the others knew they would have to fix sooner rather than later, or trouble would come knocking at their own door. It had been a couple of months since Adam had seen Bruce. They'd all been keeping their distance from each other in case Jamie linked all of their names together. But now Bruce had turned up to the well-known nightclub, Lambrianus, which was now run by Adam and his older sister Scarlett. Opening his jacket to show the silk paisley lining, Bruce did a mock twirl in his new navy blue double-breasted suit, while Adam wolf whistled and laughed. "Well, at least it stopped you looking like a model for knitting patterns. You look like you've just stepped off the pages of Vogue magazine. And Christ, even your hair looks washed and groomed. Whatever happened to the university lecturer in his old cardigan, baggy trousers and a mop of hair that hasn't seen a comb in years? You look so good, I could fancy you myself. Come here, mate. It's good to see you." Walking forward, Adam put his arms around Bruce and hugged him. "Careful, you'll crease my new suit," laughed Bruce, while patting him on the back. "It's good to see you, Adam, now the heat is off. I've missed my old comrade." Blushing slightly, Bruce sat down. "Julie's butler, Lewis, certainly knows his stuff, and when I cleaned my glasses properly, I realised what a scruffy bastard I was. No wonder my students never took any notice of me. But that's teaching for you. Everything else goes out the window." Cocking his head to one side, Adam had to agree. Well, to be fair to Julie, she wouldn't have Lewis hanging around if he didn't have style. Looking slightly worried, Bruce frowned. "Don't worry, Adam. I'm not spending above my means. Not like Jamie buying champagne for everyone in that swanky apartment. He was too obvious. I see that now. I bought my mum her house, but Julie sorted that out and it all looks legitimate." Adam nodded, knowing they were all trying to be careful about spending the money they'd got from the cryptocurrency scam. "So what's with the visit, Bruce? Don't lecturers have any work to do these days? Or have you just come around to show me the new you?" "Exams are over, and now it's my time to shine. You fancy something to eat and a catch-up? Or are you snowed under as usual?" Adam let out a loud, warm laugh. "Well, I can't have you all dressed up with nowhere to go, can I?" Adam straightened his own pale pink tie. "Let's get out of here. Do you fancy the greasy spoon around the corner?" Bruce frowned. "Don't you think we both look a bit overdressed for a greasy spoon in our suits?" "Well, we will either look like we've been to court, or we don't care what people think. Personally, for me, it's the latter. Let's walk. I need some fresh air." Looking around the room, Bruce gave Adam a wry grin. "Where is the dragon lady?" Raising eyebrows, Adam laughed at Bruce's description of Adam's sister, Scarlett. "My, we have got brave in that suit. Scarlett's doing her usual morning parade with the staff. I take it breakfast is on you, or I'll tell her you called her that." Adam grinned, showing a perfect row of white teeth. "I walked right into that, didn't I?" laughed Bruce. "Yeah, I'm paying. Come on, let's walk like a couple of swells." Adam bowed his head and opened the door wide. "After you," he mocked playfully. The Greasy Spoon Cafe was always busy with black cab drivers dropping in for breakfast before the start of a long day. And for some, it was the end of a night shift before going home to rest. This was a usual haunt for Adam. He knew most of the drivers, and they were always a hive of gossip and information, which suited him perfectly. He could find the ins and outs of all his neighbourhood clubs and businesses without having to go too far. He'd often pop in for a bacon sandwich before going into the office to start the daily grind of invoices and staff complaints. Knuckles appreciated it, although Scarlett tried discouraging it and squirmed every time she saw tomato sauce drip on Knuckles' chin or shirt. She would angrily throw a tissue at him to wipe it off, which made Adam laugh every time. Later, Scarlett would miraculously produce a new shirt out of her desk drawer and throw it at him. Knuckles never turned a hair, but would leave the room to change, seemingly totally oblivious to Scarlett's ranting. Knuckles, as he had been known by everyone for years, had worked for Adam's father, Tony. He was a cold-blooded, murdering machine. 7 foot in stance, and nearly as wide, but all of it muscle. He had been a henchman and a getaway driver in the early days, and he was a trusted member of the Lambrianu team. Somewhere along the way, Knuckles had lost one arm, but no one knew how. And Knuckles, who hardly ever spoke except for one-word sentences, would never tell. He was the strong, silent type who watched everything and said very little. His arm was now a top-of-the-range prosthetic with a grip of iron, which in his line of work came in very useful. Knuckles was excellent at his job. Tony Lambrianu had seen that and used him accordingly, and now Adam and Scarlett continued to put their trust in him. Meeting Scarlett had changed Knuckles' life. She had begged her father to let her have Knuckles as her bodyguard, and Tony, knowing Knuckles wouldn't abuse his trust and break his daughter's heart, had agreed. Knuckles had done Scarlett's bidding since then, and over the years they had unwittingly forged a union. Scarlett's cunning brain and Knuckles' manpower and strength had made them into a fearsome duo. For the first time in his life, he had someone who cared for him. Scarlett, wanting him to look the part, had nurtured him, and his loyalty to her was unwavering. Scarlett had found solace in Knuckles' arms, and a relationship had formed between them. She had given birth to twins, Annette, after her father's mother, and Jake, after her father's foster brother and partner in crime. Jake, who had been shot by his wife Sharon, was still mourned by all. "Mr. Lambrianu," the cafe owner smiled. "How good to see you. I hope you've got your appetite back." Reaching over the glass counter, Adam spied the unwashed hands of the owner-cum-chef and shook his hand. "Hungry and ready for you to screw up my digestive system again? Good to see you again. This is Bruce. Bruce, this is the breakfast guru, otherwise known as Alvin." Likewise, Bruce also shook Alvin's hand. "Were you named after the singer Alvin Stardust?" he quipped. "More like Alvin and the Chipmunks," Adam laughed. "Right, Bruce is buying. What have you got for 2 hungry men?" Alvin rolled his eyes to the ceiling and stubbed out his roll-up cigarette, holding his hand up to stop the protests. "Don't worry, lads. I know the rules. It's not lit. It just makes me feel better. Reminds me of the good old days when you could smoke in your own establishments. Nightclubs, too," he added while winking at Adam. "Yeah, well, the days of having nicotine cleaned off the ceiling are far behind us, Alvin. And are your fingers supposed to be that brown, yellowy colour while cooking our grub?" Looking down at his nicotine-stained fingers, Alvin wiped his hands on his already greasy, striped apron, then clapped them together. "Right, 2 English ballbusters, I think. Something to stir the tadpoles in those tight trousers you're wearing." He laughed, much to the amusement of the other customers overhearing the conversation. Pulling out a wooden chair at a table, Bruce grimaced and sat down. "Do these tables ever get wiped down?" he whispered. "Probably not," Adam shrugged. "I've been coming here for so long now I don't notice anymore." "Why? You afraid of spoiling your new togs?" "Well, maybe." Bruce blushed and moved the stained bottles of sauces to one side with distaste. "Why does he say your name so loud when you walk in, Adam? Christ, he's got a gob like a foghorn." "It's to warn the other customers so that they can stop talking about me or the club. Me being here can make people feel uneasy. Worried I've got a gun stashed in my waistband and I'm planning a shootout. He does the same when the police walk in. It's a warning to everyone." Bruce moved in closer, lowering his voice. "And have you got a gun stashed in your waistband?" "That's for me to know, Brucey baby. Most of the women I know think I've got something stashed in my trouser pockets." Adam laughed, and his spirits rose at seeing Bruce again. He enjoyed bantering with him and having a loyal friend he could trust. It wasn't often he mixed with like-minded people nearer his own age. But Bruce was both of those things. He'd worked and studied all of his life and achieved his goal to be a university lecturer. Adam knew Bruce was smart, but that he could also be trusted. Julie's imminent plans in Italy went through Adam's mind. He'd like to discuss it with Bruce, but it was strictly family business. Although he did think of Bruce's family, and he knew even Julie had taken a liking to him, which was unusual for her. She rarely had a good word for anyone. But Adam didn't want to involve Bruce in this. It was a harebrained plan, thought up by an old woman with vengeance in mind, and would be an enormous undertaking. Better to keep Bruce out of it, although he yearned to talk it over with someone other than family. Because Adam was at the heart of Julie's plan, which was part of the problem, whether he liked it or not, he would be dragged into this mess. Julie believed that Katie's husband, Christopher, had convinced Don Carlos into writing another will when he had discovered that Adam Lambrianu would be named as his rightful heir and take the place as head of the Italian mafia family. Chris had always felt that, being Don Carlo's nephew, he should be the chosen one. He was sick of hearing how highly Don Carlos thought of Adam Lambrianu, and how the other mafia families welcomed Adam into their homes. The Lambrianu legend ran through Italy as much as the wine produced at the Lambrianu vineyard. But Don Carlos had been left to the mercy of Christopher as his dementia progressed. Once Chris had moved in with his family and taken over, without invitation, no one could oppose it. Not even Katie Lambrianu, his wife, who knew that Chris would take her children from her if she ever dared breathe a word against him. Chris had wanted Julie Gold to witness how ill and confused Don Carlos was becoming, confirming his rightful place as the new heir. He had arranged a call with Julie to put her mind at rest and prove to her that Don Carlos was being adequately cared for. And although Don Carlos's mind was locked firmly in the past, he still had moments of recognition and lucidity, even though these moments only lasted for minutes, until the confusion took over once more. During this call, Chris had sat beside Don Carlos, as he'd had one of his lucid moments, and had remembered his old friend Julie Gold. He had mentioned Ralph's birthday to Julie, but had got the digits in the wrong order until Julie corrected him. Chris had scoffed. The old man got everything wrong nowadays. But rather than brush his mistake off as he normally would, Don Carlos had screamed down the telephone at Julie, repeating the same 6 digits. Eventually, he had slammed the phone down on Julie, much to Chris's delight, because now, whenever Julie called back, Chris would put her off by saying it upset and agitated Don Carlos. But Julie was no fool, and she had known that something wasn't right. Upset by the way Don Carlos had screamed at her, she had begun to think more about his words and his insistence that Ralph's birthday was on the date he had told her. She knew the old man was confused, but she had known Carlos for years and wondered if he was actually trying to pass on a message without Chris finding out. Carlos had often used coded words in conversations to avoid being overheard or spied on. In the beginning, it had meant nothing to her and Ralph, but as time went on, they had learnt to work out these coded words and their meanings, which had made Don Carlos laugh and only brought them closer together as they unravelled his own puzzles. And although Julie knew he was ill, her gut instinct had made her write down the wrong 6 digits Don Carlos remembered as Ralph's birthday. It might be something, it may be nothing, she had mused to herself, but either way, she made note of them. Within the month, the bells of Italy rang out, informing everyone that Don Carlos had died in his sleep. Julie had wept inconsolably, but had gone berserk when the will was read and Christopher was named as the new Don. She knew it was a lie and who was to blame, but she couldn't prove it. Friends of old who had known Ralph Gold and Don Carlos had voiced their suspicions to Julie, giving her inside information of how Christopher had kept Don Carlos isolated from the rest of the household. The only thing mentioned in the will for Adam was a letter that had been left at Don Carlos's bank. Chris had expected Don Carlos to have left others money or trinkets, especially his beloved Adam. But there was no mention of any financial amount. For that, Adam would have to contact Don Carlos's bank. Chris suspected it was some insignificant bauble from the old days that he felt Adam should inherit. But now he was named and accepted as the rightful heir. That was all he cared about. He delighted in stealing Adam's thunder and shocking the family, especially Julie. Having them all bow down to him because of his new status clearly made Chris's ego even bigger than it already was. Worming his way into Katie's affections and marrying into the family had given him the golden opportunity to keep his enemies close. And it had finally paid off. Vowing vengeance, Julie Gold wanted to right the wrong done by Chris and let Don Carlos rest in peace. Adam Lambrianu was the rightful heir to Don Carlos's title and wealth, and she was going to make damn sure he got it. For Don Carlos's sake, for her husband Ralph's sake, and for Adam's father, Tony Lambrianu's sake. She wanted revenge for all of them. Concocting a plan in her mind, she had realized the only way to do this was by murdering Chris. As far as she was concerned, he deserved nothing less. She knew he wouldn't accept his fate and go quietly. If anything, he would eventually kill them all. The more she thought about it, the angrier she felt. Now, knowing the whole truth, the Lambrianus and the Golds had made a pact to save their family, avenge their loved ones, and go to Italy to murder Chris. But Adam feared that it wasn't going to be as easy as Julie made out. Sensing Adam had drifted off into his own thoughts, Bruce spoke and tried to bring him back to the present. "You're a vain bugger, Adam Lambrianu. Anyway, on a lighter note, what's with all the tents in the West End near Hyde Park? Is it a circus or something?" "No, you've seen it before. They usually hold the Winter Wonderland there, but this week is the German Beer Festival. Ales from everywhere served in tankards. There are flyers everywhere. Do you walk around with your eyes shut, Bruce?" "It's not often I come into the West End," Bruce quipped. "Do you fancy it tonight?" "Yeah, why not? Sounds good. Just don't mention the war." With that, they both burst out laughing, then stopped abruptly as Alvin placed in front of them their large oval plates, piled high with sausages, eggs, bacon, and black pudding. Both of them looked down at their plates as the baked beans ran over the side, and then back up at each other in awe. Alvin stood with his hands on his hips, looking very pleased with himself. "There you go, lads. 2 ballbusters. That will set you up for tonight's drinking binge." Raising his eyebrows, Adam looked directly at Alvin. "My grandma, what big ears you have, eh?" The crowd at the beer festival was rowdy, but harmless. Hipsters, students and office workers alike rubbed shoulders in the large beer tents bursting with music. No one suspected that behind their designer suits, Adam and Bruce weren't just a couple of regular lads eager to try the real ales on offer from all parts of the world. They were kings of the underworld, especially Adam, being a Lambrianu. Adam's name was spoken in hushed tones across the city. Pushing his way to one of the bars through the cheering, hot, sweaty crowd, Bruce grinned. "Do you reckon anyone here knows who you are, Adam? I suspect you're the last person they would expect to be drinking with, let alone in some tent." Shaking his head, Adam laughed and adjusted his gold cufflinks. "Nah, that's the beauty of these places. We are out of our territory and hopefully out of trouble." He winked. "Just 2 blokes on the lash, even if we do look a bit overdressed." Scanning the crowd, Adam saw that the office workers who had popped in, wanting to unwind for the weekend, had quickly discarded their ties and were now wearing them around their heads, while singing along to Bruce Springsteen songs at the top of their voices. Bruce shouted at the barman, "What do you recommend?" The barman took 2 small plastic cups and poured a sample of 2 ales into them. "Either one of these should start the night, lads," he shouted back and handed them both to Bruce. Taking a sip, Bruce pulled a face and handed the cup to Adam.
Christ, that's a taste I'll never forget.
Give it here, it's a man's drink.
Adam laughed, but before he could take a sip, a familiar face in the crowd caught his eye. Leaning forward, he whispered in Bruce's ear. That's Razor Ricky behind you. I wonder what he's doing here. He retired a few years ago, and I wouldn't have thought this was his scene. Don't turn around too quickly. He'll notice. Calmly and easy does it, Bruce, Adam instructed.
Frowning, Bruce scanned the singing crowd, already staggering about as the strongly brewed ale took hold, and eventually his gaze cast upon an elderly man with swept-back greying hair, quietly nursing a pint of ale. Raising his brows questioningly, Bruce shrugged and absently took a sip of one of the sample ales he'd been given, making him cough as it burnt his throat.
So, what about him, Adam? Maybe he's a lover of strong ale. What's the problem? Rubbing his throat, Bruce coughed again. Christ, I wish I hadn't done that. Razor Ricky, what kind of a name is that? He joked, not noticing Adam's face had grown serious.
Ricky is a man with a sharp wit and a deadly touch, especially with a razor in his hand. What does he want in a place like this? He's definitely got another agenda. This is not his scene.
Well, he's not here looking for you. Even you didn't know you were coming until today.
True. Adam nodded, but kept his eyes focused on the direction of Razor Ricky. A sly grin crossed Ricky's face, and as he met Adam's eyes, he nodded. Adam tugged at Bruce's sleeve. Come on, he's seen us now. We have to say hello. Confused, Bruce shook his head.
Why? By the sounds of it, you're not a fan.
That's irrelevant. Keep your enemies close. Come on. Adam pulled harder on Bruce's arm and steered the way towards Razor Ricky.
Evening, Adam. What brings you to a place like this?
Ricky's gravelly voice greeted them as they drew nearer. Tensing his jaw, Adam feigned a smile.
Same as you. Looking for a good, strong beer.
Looking towards Bruce with his small plastic sample cup, a sneer crossed Ricky's face.
Who's your girlfriend?
He nodded sarcastically.
Haven't you got the bottle for a full pint of the stuff?
Then, noticing the lack of a glass in Adam's hand, he grinned again.
This is men's drinking. Why come here if you can't take the heat?
Adam's blue eyes flashed, and he bit into his bottom lip, enough to hurt, but not to draw blood. We're just sampling the goods before making a choice. What are you drinking? Or is that a secret too, like the reason you're checking this place out? Adam replied, ignoring Ricky's slight. Bruce could feel the tension between the two men and felt uneasy. He knew Adam's temper was always near to boiling point and wanted to defuse the situation.
The last one I tried had coriander in it. Christ, who put salad in beer, eh?
He joked, but it fell on deaf ears and Ricky glared at him with disdain. Bruce decided to shut up. Ricky waved his arm in the air at the crowd around them.
Look around you, Adam. Have you got too high and mighty that you can't see an opportunity when it's staring you in the face? Is this too low-key for you? I still have friends in the business who might be interested in offering protection for something as big as this.
I wasn't aware you had any friends at all, Ricky, let alone in my neck of the woods. Your patch has always been North London, so why come to my neck of the woods? The West End is Lambrianu turf and always has been.
Ah, well, I might have retired, as you know, but it doesn't stop me keeping the odd iron in the fire, does it? I'm neutral now, like Switzerland. If I see something worth offering to my friends, I will. I have no boundaries now holding me back.
Frowning, he narrowed his eyes and looked at Adam.
Where there is an opportunity to be made and no one is making use of it, then it's everyone's free-for-all. We're taking your leftovers, Adam.
Ricky scoffed. Annoyed at Ricky's almost cavalier behaviour, Adam spat. You don't trade on my patch without offering some kind of commission. Not if you want it to go smoothly.
Was that a threat, Adam? It sounded like one.
Emptying the dregs of his glass in one swoop, Ricky dropped his plastic glass on the floor and crushed it with his foot. "Most definitely, Ricky, and don't forget it. You ask nicely if you wish to trade on my turf. You don't tell me. You're an old man whose friends were glad to see the back of, what with your addictions and brawls. Including your wife, if I recall." Adam replied, knowing full well that would hit a raw nerve. He was irritated, but trying hard not to let this loser wind him up, which he knew was Ricky's intention. Angry at the rebuff, Ricky turned his back on Adam, and without a word angrily pushed his way through the crowd to leave. Adam's eyes flashed with anger as Ricky walked away, turning his back on him to prove a point. "That bastard was sizing me up, Bruce. But the worst thing is, he was half right. This is a money spinner and we, Scarlett and me, have overlooked it. Maybe we've got lazy. But the last thing I need is a lowlife like Ricky pointing it out. He'll be selling his information to our rivals and they will be swarming this place, raking in the money and making a stand for turf. My turf. The very turf my father made his own. Am I so weak, Bruce, that I didn't see this happening? They are trying to take away everything my father built and I won't have it." Adam spat. "Fuck! The last thing I need is a prick like Ricky reminding me of my shortcomings. I'll have this place, and I will sort him out if it's the last thing I do before I leave." "Leave to go where?" Bruce looked at him, confused. He couldn't recall Adam saying he was going somewhere. "Oh, nowhere," Adam stammered, and regretted shooting his mouth off. He didn't want to mention the Italian plans to Bruce yet. "But I thought you said he was retired, Adam. He's just winding you up, and let's be honest, you're pretty easy to wind up when you're already stressed. It's all that fiery Italian blood in your veins." Casting a glance at Bruce, Adam smiled. "Well, he's supposed to be retired, sneaky old bastard. If he is on the prowl, that also means he's skint. He's looking for a way in. Either that or he's got so much cocaine up his nose he's not thinking straight. If he can sell this information to his old scumbag bosses in North London, they will look into it, and he'll get a payout, and that's what he needs. He was once one of their top henchmen until the drugs took over. But everyone likes someone with eyes and ears like a ferret who sees good opportunities and passes them on. It's what our industry is built on. Street soldiers, spies, whatever you want to call them. But this is my turf, Bruce, and I won't have him pissing down my back and telling me it's raining." Adam grimaced. Once out of the tent, Ricky took out his mobile and called his old bosses. He wondered if his call would be accepted, as they hadn't parted on the best of terms. To his astonishment, they did. He could tell it was on loudspeaker because of the echo, and he could hear sneers from whoever else was listening. "I've just been to the beer festival in the West End, boss. Thought you might be interested." Ricky looked around the hugeness of the park and the people milling around. "It doesn't look like they have any protection, boss. A few coppers hanging around for the drunks and some hired security guards. Well, blokes in security guard uniforms doing fuck all." Ricky laughed down the phone, trying to sound braver than he felt. "I wondered, do you want me to look into it? Find out who's organised this? Believe me, there is a lot of money crossing hands. It's packed to the hilt. I feel it would need proper security from someone, say, like yourselves." Dutch Hillman, the North London boss, listened to Ricky calmly and frowned at his friends in the room. "I take it you want something for your tip-off, Ricky. But isn't that Lambrianu territory? Surely he's got his finger in that pie if it's as sweet as you say." Lying through gritted teeth, Ricky laughed down the phone. "Actually, I've just come out of the festival with Adam. He's not interested. A bit low-key for Mr. High and Mighty, apparently." Shocked, Dutch repeated what Ricky had said. "You've just been to the beer festival with Adam Lambrianu, and he's given you the go-ahead to tip us off. Are you sure about this, Ricky? Because I am warning you. We want no shit from Lambrianu and his animals. Life's good. They leave us alone. The scrap-dealing business is ours, so are the slot machines on our side of the river." "Hang on a minute, Ricky." Dutch looked at his brother Ethan,
and then at his own soldiers. Muting the call, he turned to Ethan.
What do you think? Is this on the level?
I think if Lambrianu isn't interested, I'd want to know why. But if he isn't, well, it's worth checking out. It could be a load of shit for all we know.
Looking around the pub table at their henchmen, Ethan pointed at two of them.
You two, go and see if it's worth the bother.
Ricky could be bullshitting. Everyone knows he hasn't got a penny to his name these days. His wife's disowned him and kept the house, and his savings have gone up his nose. Go. Doing as they were told, the two men stood up and left the pub. Ethan nodded at his brother to carry on the conversation with Ricky.
Okay then, Ricky. If that's the case, you see what you can find out, and if it's worth our time, there will be something in it for you.
Ricky grinned with pleasure as he punched the air. He was back in. Tonight, Lady Fortune had been on his side, and God knows, with the debts he had run up at the racetracks lately and his dealers, he needed some luck. Walking up to one of the ticket sellers at the front of the tent, he smiled. Indeed, now he had something to smile about.
Who's in charge around here? Who runs this thing?
Ricky asked nonchalantly.
The organiser is Mr. Wilkinson. Look,
the ticket seller replied and pointed to the name at the top of the tent. Wilkinson's Worldwide Beer Festival, it read, alongside flags of all nations.
OK, Bright Spark, don't get lippy. So where do you find the greatest showman then? I need a word.
The young female ticket seller cast a furtive glance at the security guard stood at either side of her while she took the entrance money.
He's usually in that large caravan over there,
she pointed in the darkness. Squinting his eyes to see, Ricky saw lights in the distance.
That it?
He pointed.
Yes, maybe one of the security guards could take you over there?
The young girl stammered again.
I can find my way. You need these two to look after that tin box chained to a wooden table. Just how much is in there, little girl?
Watching her shrug, he smiled at her menacingly.
Be careful someone doesn't steal it, lovey. Oh, don't worry about that. It's emptied every half hour. Plus, there are the police swarming around. No one would dare, she exclaimed.
Ricky burst out laughing.
I wouldn't be too sure about that.
Walking deeper into the park, he saw a very large, very expensive-looking camper van. All the lights were on, and he could hear several voices inside. He knocked on the door and a woman answered. She had obviously been expecting someone else and looked surprisingly at Ricky.
Can I help you?
She asked, taking in the elderly man's suited appearance and his slicked-back greying hair.
I'm looking for the organiser of the festival, Mr. Wilkinson.
The woman shut the door in Ricky's face, which annoyed him, and after a few minutes a man opened up.
I'm Mr. Wilkinson. What can I do for you? Well, I'm happy to know that you've got better manners than the woman who answered the door. Can we talk? I have a proposition for you. A proposition for me? I organise events, Mr. Sorry, I didn't get your name. Smith, Mr. Smith.
Ricky lied and held out his hand to shake Mr. Wilkinson's.
Well, Mr. Smith, here's my card. I'm busy tonight, but I'll be available first thing in the morning. I'm always interested in organising events to our mutual benefit.
Mr. Wilkinson wasn't what Ricky had expected. Middle-aged, although not wearing his suit, he was in his shirt sleeves and his tie was loosened. The huge camper van, which looked like the size of a house, was obviously the mobile office. Looking over his shoulder, Ricky could see a lot of people inside, and so decided not to cause a fuss. I'm not organising an event. My friends and I organise security for events such as this. Relaxing a little, Mr. Wilkinson realised that Ricky was touting for a security contract.
We have security, Mr. Smith, and we have the police to stop the odd drunk who gets out of hand. Everything is alarmed, so we're covered, OK? Not quite. You're not getting protection from the people who run the streets. Make sure your festival has no hiccups.
His smarmy smile and threatening undertones made it hard for Mr. Wilkinson to understand for a moment. so Ricky spoke again, trying to get his point across. Treading on people's toes, on their turf, without offering any kind of commission. For a moment, Mr. Wilkinson stared at him, trying to take in what he was suggesting. Forgive me for sounding stupid, but are you suggesting mobster protection? Racketeering and protection? For fuck's sake, haven't those days of gangsters gone out with the ark? We don't need Al Capone to look after a beer festival, Mr. Smith. We're legal. We have council permission and the police to support us. Now, I suggest you leave before I have you arrested for some kind of threatening behaviour. This meeting is over. With that, Mr. Wilkinson shut the door in Ricky's face. Seething with anger, Ricky stared at the closed door for a moment and felt like kicking it in. He wished he had a gun on him because he would show that clever, cocky bastard about gangster shootouts. Turning on his heel, he lit a cigarette and started to walk away when something caught his eye. Standing still for a moment, he recognised Adam Lambrianu's friend from the tent making his way to the many portable toilets that were on site. Ricky's ire was up. His blood was boiling from the way Mr. Wilkinson had shut the door in his face. He knew the man wouldn't have dared to do that many years ago. Then there was that Lambrianu, cocky little bastard, Ricky thought to himself. He would gladly slice that pretty boy's face up. Standing near the portaloo, Ricky saw that no one else was around. As he saw the door open as Bruce was leaving, Ricky's sudden urge was to lash out and take his anger out on somebody, and Lambrianu's stooge would do. Watching him fall to the ground, Ricky pummeled him with his fists and then started kicking him as Bruce curled himself into a ball for protection. Taking out his razor, Ricky slashed Bruce up his leg. Then kneeling beside him, Ricky was about to slice Bruce's face when he heard a crowd of youths approaching. Ricky made a hasty retreat and ran across the park towards his car. Bruce's cries were mostly drowned out by the music and the groups of men drunkenly singing and dancing in the park. Spirits were high, and people were only interested in enjoying themselves, unaware of Bruce's near-death fate. Adam stood shoulder to shoulder with other customers, waiting for their turn to be served. His eyes narrowed and his ears became deaf to the loud, raucous laughter and singing around him. All he saw was the bartender holding a card machine out to the many customers and hearing it bleep as their payment was authorised. The vastness of the tent with many makeshift bars meant numerous bartenders were all doing the same thing. Adam tried to calculate how much the beer stalls must all be taking, and not 1 ounce of profit was going in his pocket. Ricky was right, he mused to himself. This was just like any of the other clubs or businesses on his patch that paid for protection, and yet this one had slipped entirely through the net. If it hadn't been for Bruce, he doubted he would have even noticed it until it had left. Once he had been served and held out his credit card as payment, he fought his way from the crowded bar and sat on a nearby wooden bench waiting for Bruce. Slowly, Adam concentrated on the crowds and how the customers showed no sign of diminishing. If anything, they got bigger as time went on and more people came in. After a while, Adam looked at his watch. Bruce had been gone for half an hour. His frothy pint had gone flat, and Adam had finished his own. Feeling the sweat beading on his brow and down the back of his shirt, Adam stood up and made for one of the many exits. Almost gasping as he gulped in the fresh air, he saw large crowds stood outside with their drinks. Police walked around the area and Adam noticed a few security guards trying to keep the peace by helping the odd drunk vomit away from the tent. All in all, it seemed like everyone was having a great time. Scanning the crowds, Adam looked for Bruce, then made his way to the portaloos. On approaching, he heard groaning in the darkness. It was pitch black outside with only the moon and the stars for lighting. Again he heard moans and groans and followed the sound behind the portaloo. There, lying on the ground, he saw Bruce. Kneeling down beside him, Adam shouted his name. "Bruce! Bruce, are you okay? What happened?"
Feeling a wetness on his hand, Adam peered into the darkness and realized there was blood. Taking out his mobile phone and turning on the light, he saw Bruce's badly beaten body lying on the floor, blood smeared all over his face. "Shit! Have you been mugged?" Rooted to the spot for a moment, Adam took in the bloodied sight before him. He felt helpless and shocked at the same time. Looking around the park, he saw police and a first aid ambulance parked nearby and was about to shout out for help when it suddenly dawned on him who had done this. Who was the last person he had argued with? Ricky would never have dared to have done this to Adam, but being the coward he was, he had attacked the nearest person with him. He felt helpless and guilty that his temper had caused this to happen to his friend. Composing himself, Adam controlled the anger boiling up inside of him and concentrated on helping Bruce. "Bruce, mate, can you stand?" Adam asked, and tried helping him off the ground. "My arm, I think it's broken, Adam," he muttered through bloodied lips. "Okay, but can you stand? There is a first aid ambulance over there. Let's get you to that and get you cleaned up." "I'll try, but don't pull my arm. It bloody hurts." Almost dragging Bruce to his feet and stumbling backwards himself, Adam heard Bruce give out a loud moan as he put his broken arm around his shoulders. Catching his breath and barely able to see with the blood running down his face into his eyes, Bruce blinked hard as Adam put his arm around his waist, and together they limped towards the ambulance. "Help needed!" Adam shouted as he approached the entrance. Some paramedics were stood outside, and spotting Adam and Bruce, they leapt forward to help. Two of them carried Bruce carefully inside the brightly lit ambulance and placed him on one of the stretchers. Seeing Adam's jacket and shirt covered in blood, they told him to sit down too, but once Adam had reassured them that the blood was Bruce's, not his, they gave him some wet wipes to clean his face and hands while they looked Bruce over. One of the paramedics turned towards Adam. "The arm is definitely broken. He will need to go to hospital and have it seen to. We'll radio ahead, so hopefully he won't have to wait too long. Has he been mugged? He doesn't seem drunk." Adam looked on as they washed Bruce's bloody face, and as they handed over his jacket, Adam's suspicions were confirmed. Bruce's wallet was still there in the inside pocket. Surely a mugger wouldn't have gone to so much trouble without taking his wallet, or his watch, which was still on his arm. The paramedics kept questioning Adam about what he knew, but all he could tell them was the truth. Bruce had gone to one of the Portaloos, and when he'd realised he'd been missing a while, he had gone to look for him. Two police from nearby came in, obviously alerted by one of the paramedics, and they asked all the same questions. Bruce muttered that he had gone to the loo, and when he had come out, someone, he couldn't see who in the darkness, had lashed out at him and punched him in the face. Once he had fallen, they had kicked him and searched his body on the floor looking for his wallet. Between the swollen slits of his eyes, Bruce cast a furtive glance at Adam, who, slowly, took out Bruce's wallet from his jacket and hid it in his own pocket. The missing wallet would confirm Bruce's story. Adam knew his good friend was keeping silent about the whole affair, and the police accepted it as one of those things. They could see that neither Bruce nor Adam was drunk, and so hadn't got into a fight of sorts. The police took notes, but couldn't promise anything. Then another ambulance turned up to take Bruce to hospital to get his arm fixed and to put stitches in his forehead and leg. The paramedics commented to the police that the cut on the leg looked like a knife wound, but it was so thinly cut, it could have been done by a Stanley knife, possibly a razor. Adam looked long and hard at his friend in agony, musing to himself as he looked at the long slash down Bruce's leg, pouring with blood. Guilt washed over Adam. They both knew who had done this, and if it hadn't been for his own arrogance towards Ricky, poor Bruce wouldn't be in this mess. After hours of waiting, Bruce finally emerged in a wheelchair. His head was bandaged over the stitches he had received, and his newly plastered arm was in a sling. His trouser leg had been cut so that the long razor cut could be stitched together.
The bloodstains on his shirt and trousers had dried and made him look even more dishevelled than ever. Adam had called the club and ordered a car to be sent over to the hospital to pick them up. On hearing this, Scarlett had arrived herself. Hearing her heels clacking along the hospital corridors, Adam had a feeling of dread. He knew she would fire questions at him and be relieved that he hadn't been hurt. Bruce had been the one who had taken the full wrath of Razor Ricky's anger.
Adam!
Half running down the corridor, Scarlett held her arms wide open.
What's happened?
Then, angrily, she slapped him across the face, knocking him sideways.
Why the hell didn't you call me? Why did I have to find out third hand that my brother was at the hospital waiting to be picked up, you selfish bastard?
Then, throwing her arms around him, she hugged him. Adam felt she was squeezing the life out of him and did his best to shrug her off. "I'm okay, Scarlett. It's Bruce," he explained. Turning her head, she saw Bruce in the wheelchair and let out a gasp of horror. Giving her a weak smile, Bruce did his best to shrug. He felt tired and drained, and although he had been given painkillers, he could now feel his body throbbing with pain and wanted to sleep. "It's 1 a.m, Scarlett. Can't the questions wait?" Adam intervened. "We're both tired, and I'm sure Bruce needs to rest. He's coming home with me." Nodding, Scarlett took the handles of Bruce's wheelchair.
Come on, you two walking wounded. Knuckles is in the car. Are you okay to walk, Adam?
"Scarlett, there's nothing wrong with me. Bruce is the injured soldier here. You can frisk me if you like." He grinned. He knew she had slapped him out of worry and concern, and realised he should have called her first to let her know he was okay. But his first thought had been Bruce and getting him patched up. Now, as they walked out of the hospital and helped Bruce get into the car, his second thought was revenge. Walking into the office the next morning, Scarlett noticed the light was on. Opening the door, she saw Adam sat at his desk working away.
You're up early, Adam. Shit the bed or something? How's the walking wounded? Did he manage to get some sleep?
Yes, he's fine. I couldn't sleep and I had some things I wanted to catch up on.
Such as?
She asked as she sat opposite him. This morning he seemed different. No quip or cheeky remark. And he was suited and booted and working away at his desk before she'd even arrived, which was unheard of. Taking off his gold-rimmed glasses, Adam looked up at her with a serious look on his face. For an instant, she saw a flash of her father in him. Such as how we have taken our eye off the ball. There is a huge beer festival in town and they aren't paying for any kind of protection. Hundreds of thousands of pounds is going into their bank account and not a penny is coming to us. We're supposed to be in charge of this area, us, the Lambrianus. And yet why do I feel you're content with the way things are? Never chasing new business, just happy with the old ones. All we're doing is riding on the coattails of our family name. We're not hungry anymore, Scarlett. Is that what you want? Scarlett was taken aback by his outburst.
Whoa, Adam, where's all this come from? I thought you proved your point with your crypto rip-off. Wasn't that meant to bring the Lambrianus up to date?
Adam let out a huge sigh.
That's my point, Scarlett. It was up to date and easy to do with a bit of help from our friends. He smiled. But we're missing out on our grassroots. This beer festival is just one oversight, and people will notice. The club down the road, for instance, Adam carried on, almost red-faced. It pays us for protection, and when it hears we don't have a finger in the pie of that festival organisation, why should they pay us? I would feel like that. It's all or nothing, Scarlett.
Almost out of breath, Adam half smiled.
So there you have it. Adam, I don't know exactly what's eating you, but to be honest, you have a point. We should have looked into that festival, but we didn't. Or I didn't. I didn't feel it was worth the effort for such a short space of time. My oversight, I'm sorry. Are they making a lot of money?
They are, but it's not just about the money, Scarlett.
It's about who we are. Does our name mean anything out there anymore? Does it chill the bones of people anymore? Or are we just the fat cats living off our forebearers? Well, I, for one, Adam, am not a fat cat, Scarlett shouted, I work bloody hard running this place and the casino, and unless you've forgotten, I still own my hairdressing salons. You sort out the pubs, the slot machines, and run the bookies. But what is it you're looking for, Adam? Excitement, is that it? No, Scarlett, you're missing my point. We have a tradition and a legacy to keep up, and I, for one, intend to do that. So stop moaning about it and do something. Find whatever it is you're looking for and keep up tradition. Christ, you really have the wind up your arse this morning. Is it since Jenny dumped you? Scarlett threw in for good measure. For a moment, there was a silence in the room as Adam looked Scarlett squarely in the eyes. Low blow, Scat. But it probably does have something to do with Jenny, yes. No one likes to be dumped. It hurts the ego. Adam recalled his girlfriend, Jenny. She'd been good fun, and he had enjoyed feeling like a normal bloke dating a normal girl. He had even wondered if this was what love was like, whizzing about on his motorbike without a care in the world. He had never disclosed that he owned the nightclub where he had met her. Instead, he'd just told her that he worked there, which wasn't entirely a lie. Their romance had been fleeting and fun, with lots of sex to boot. But when she'd had to leave England on a short work trip, she'd whispered in his ear that she knew who he really was, and that he had deceived her. And if he didn't trust her, then he didn't love her. Without a backward turn, she had walked towards her boarding gate, leaving Adam calling out to her, desperate to explain why he had wanted her to himself, without the media or his family wanting introductions. He would have told her eventually, but the longer it went on, the harder it got. He hadn't heard from her since that day. Adam felt disappointed with himself for not being honest, and woeful at what could have been. That Scarlett should throw it in his face now reminded him of what an arse he'd been. Softening her tone, Scarlett walked over to him and put her hand on his shoulder. Sorry, Adam. I didn't mean that. It's her loss, not yours. I've got other things on my mind, like this trip of Julie's to Italy. It has so many holes in it. Anything could go wrong. Chasing festivals isn't the first thing on my agenda. But why don't you put your feelers out about this festival and any other plan you have in mind? But don't get too involved with anything yet. We have a lot to do and I want you alive at my wedding. Killing Chris off, the self-proclaimed godfather of Italy, isn't going to be as easy as Julie predicts. That's what worries me. Is she a bonkers old woman? Or is it maybe us who are old, stayed in our ways and bonkers? You could be right, Adam. Maybe it's time to shake up this town a little and remind them who we are. If we're going to die, we might as well go out with all guns blazing. She laughed, almost hysterically. Is that what you think will happen? We're all going to die? When you say a lot to do, you mean breaking into Chris's mansion and getting close enough to kill him, all for the sake of avenging Don Carlos. It is a big mountain to climb, Scarlett, and I have my doubts. Julie still hasn't disclosed a lot of her plans to any of us, and we've got a lot to lose. Sitting down again, Scarlett put her head in her hands. I don't know, Adam, but Chris has a lot of bodyguards surrounding him. We would be few against many. It's crossed my mind. Hasn't it crossed yours? Rolling his eyes to the ceiling, Adam sat back in his chair. I suppose so. But who is all of this for, Scarlett? The trip, I mean. To clear Diana, so she would never be found guilty of murder for helping Katie to murder Sharon? To help Katie escape